It all looks more like a conspiracy to cover up. But to cover up what? To cover up how they do business? That's one thing. Or to steer everyone away from gain of function research and the risk that goes along with that, or the lab leak possibility.
And that is the chairman of the House Select Subcommittee on the Coronavirus Pandemic, Congressman Brad Wenstrup, on their investigation into Dr. Anthony Fauci and his handling of COVID-19. Chairman Wenstrup is seeking access to Fauci's personal email accounts and cell phone records after new email evidence uncovered by the panel appears to show that Fauci used personal accounts to conduct government business during the pandemic. Here's Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer questioning Fauci's former colleague, Dr. David Morenz. Watch.
On April 21st, 2021, you wrote that Dr. Fauci is, quote, too smart to let colleagues send him stuff that could cause trouble, end quote. On June 16th, 2020, you wrote, we're all smart enough to know to never have smoking guns, and if we wouldn't put them in emails, and if we found them, we'd delete them. Now, did you ever have conversations with Dr. Fauci regarding deleting emails?
I don't remember any such thing.
You don't remember?
No, sir. And it would be very, Tony and I don't have those kind of conversations.
And even if they had the conversations, he doesn't remember. Fauci is set to testify tomorrow on Capitol Hill for the first time since retiring as director of National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases back in December of 2022. Joining me now with a look ahead is the ranking member of the Senate Homeland Security Committee, Senator Rand Paul, who has been at the forefront of this investigation into the origins of COVID-19. Senator, thanks very much for being here this morning.
Thanks for having me.
So Dr. Fauci is going to be testifying tomorrow. What are you expecting?
Well, you know, our investigation has confirmed that he did indeed lie. He committed a felony. He said that they did not fund, that the NIH did not fund gain-of-function, dangerous research in China. We now know that to be untrue. We know he committed a felony. But what we've discovered now is that there was a massive cover-up from the very beginning. There was a behind-the-scenes effort to change the opinion of people. Many of the Fauci colleagues all believed that the virus did come from the lab. Their opinions were all changed, but then all evidence was then covered up. They began using burner phones. They began using couriers. They said, we can't do things electronically. I can take things by hand to his house. It sounds more like the CIA than the NIH, but it's unbelievable the amount of things that went on. They say, oh, we're safe now. I've deleted all those emails. I think we're safe now. What in the world would they actually mean by we think we're safe now? So there was a massive cover-up, and there's so many people that need to be interviewed. In addition to Fauci, we have David Morenz, who worked for him for 20 years. We have the FOIA lady, the woman at the IT woman at NIH, who was explaining to them how to avoid FOIA and how to break the law. She needs to be deposed. There's all kinds of stones that could be unturned, but ultimately the buck stops with Anthony Fauci. He was in charge of the place, and he has the responsibility not only for the cover-up, but also responsibility for letting dangerous research go on that led to a pandemic, in all likelihood led to a pandemic that killed millions of people.
But I mean, you know, think about that. President Trump is in charge. He finds out about this COVID pandemic coming, that this disease is about to kill all these people. He's got his team right there. He asks, what do you think this is? Dr. Fauci knew all along that they were doing this gain-of-function research, and he says, oh, well, I think it's natural. I mean, really?
Well, see, we now have his emails, contemporaneous emails from the exact time when he was saying it was natural, nothing to see here, and that the NIH had nothing to do with it. We have the private emails where he and everyone in his inner circle was saying, oh, my goodness, we've looked at the genetic sequence, and it looks to be manipulated. It looks to be a creation of a lab. And then they do the opposite. And it's even more nefarious than that. A few weeks later, Anthony Fauci gets up in the White House at the podium, and he quotes a scientific paper to prove that scientists believe this came from nature. But he didn't tell people that he commissioned and edited the paper. He was behind the origins of the paper. And so there's so much dishonesty going on here and so much abuse of power. We've got to get to the bottom of this, and mainly because this research still goes on. It goes on in the United States, and it needs to be regulated. I have a bill coming forward that I hope will be bipartisan that will have an independent agency that oversees all of this dangerous research.
Well, I mean, why are they lying and why did they mislead you? Is this about money? Was Dr. Anthony Fauci being paid by the vaccine makers to push the vaccine on all of us?
We don't know, and his response to me was this. He said the law protects him and that he doesn't have to reveal royalties, which is, I think, an affront to the American people. We think the law does not say that, but to clarify the law, I've introduced a bill, and it passed unanimously out of my committee, and this bill would require that all royalties be listed on their forms from now on. I think we can get it through. We'll see whether the Biden administration will oppose this or not, but this is a step for transparency and for sunlight. Everybody should be this. There shouldn't be this revolving door between Big Pharma and the NIH, and then all of a sudden, we do know that $450 million went from Moderna to the NIH because they share the patent, but does that make them conflicted in approving NIH or approving Moderna drugs now? How can you be objective when you just got $450 million from Moderna? How can you treat Moderna objectively from there on out?
That is exactly my point. Exactly my point. We're going to be watching that. Okay, do you believe if President Trump were to win, should there be a prosecution of Dr. Anthony Fauci?
What I'm asking President Trump, and what I hope he will offer, is access to all of the records. Right now, the NIH is withholding records. They're withholding records more so than the CIA or the FBI. They have completely withheld all records of the decision-making process on whether or not this research was dangerous or gain of function. So I hope Trump will open the books. I hope Trump will say, you can look at everything, and that my committee will be allowed to investigate this thoroughly because we've been hampered by the Biden administration. I think if he does that, he'll go a long way towards getting some voters who are still skeptical about the lockdowns and about the Trump administration's reaction to the virus, who want to see more strength and more opposition to the deep state within the public health administration.
So your expectation is that President Trump could still win the election despite what has taken place? What is your reaction to the conviction and the guilty conviction?
You know, a sad day in America, and what I worry about is something even bigger than Donald Trump. I worry about strife. I worry about war in the streets. I worry about 50% of the public believing that the court system will be used against them. You know, once upon a time it was because of the color of your skin, now because of the shade of your ideology. I worry about that, and I worry when half the country thinks they won't be treated fairly, what happens and how people react. If you look at records violations and you look at Hillary Clinton, $8 million expense, and they slapped her on the wrist because she got an $8,000 fine, and that's actually probably appropriate, some kind of fine for mislabeling things. But there's a real question whether it is mislabeled. Was it a legal expense? Sounds like it was a legal expense. All non-disclosure agreements, I believe, are legal expenses. I'm guessing there are hundreds of them in New York City as we speak, and my guess is not one of them have ever been taken to court. I think Donald Trump is the only person ever prosecuted for this particular crime.
Quite extraordinary, Senator. It's wonderful to talk with you this morning about it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.